Welcome to Africa Good Morning, your daily gateway to the continent's top stories. Tune in via 1up2.com, DSTV 285, GOTV 25 and Network Media Hub on YouTube for the latest updates in politics, business, entertainment and sports. News update from Namibia. President Nangolo Mbumba has received the remains of His Excellency Dr. Sam Shafishuna Nujoma, founding president and father of the Namibian nation, at the State House. His body will travel to 7 regions where memorial services will be held, starting today at his homestead in Etunda in the Omsati region. The founding father will be laid to rest on 1 March 2025, which has been declared a public holiday. May his soul rest in peace. Looking at our other stories in today's broadcast. In a historic first, South Africa's national budget was postponed due to disagreements within the ruling coalition, marking an unprecedented delay. Meanwhile, Ghana's President John Mahama warns officials to declare assets by March or face severe sanctions. And Uganda celebrates a major victory as the last Ebola patients are discharged successfully, containing the outbreak. Egypt advances plans to rebuild Gaza, countering Donald Trump's controversial depopulation proposal. And join correspondent Ari Hogard for an in-depth analysis of South Africa's key developments, including Eskom's potential nuclear expansion and strained U.S. relations. In sports, the Proteas prepare for the Champions Trophy opener against Afghanistan, while the Springboks gear up for a challenging European tour in November. Stay with Africa Good Morning as we get into our top story shortly. Let's get into our top stories on Africa Good Morning. South Africa's national budget was postponed at the last minute on Wednesday due to a disagreement among the ruling coalition partners. National Assembly Speaker Toko Didiza informed lawmakers that this marked the first such delay in 3 decades since the end of apartheid. The budget is now expected to be tabled on March 12th. For the first time in the democratic era, the African National Congress will require support from other parties to pass the budget after losing its parliamentary majority in last year's election. The Democratic Alliance, the ANC's main coalition partner, opposed the proposed 2 percentage point increase in value-added tax, citing concerns over its impact on citizens. The rand weakened following the delay, trading down 1% against the dollar at one point. Local media reported that the VAT hike was intended to address funding gaps in education and social spending. The last VAT increase in 2018 faced significant opposition, and recent rumors of another hike have drawn strong criticism from opposition parties and labor unions. Moving on to our next story. Ghanaian President John Mahama has issued a strong warning to government officials demanding they declare their assets by the end of March or face severe sanctions. Speaking publicly as he submitted his own declaration to Auditor General Johnson Akwonwa Asiedu, Mahama emphasized the importance of transparency in combating corruption. Corruption thrives under the cover of darkness, he stated. Ghana's ranking on Transparency International's Corruption Perception Index has dropped to 42, placing the country 80th out of 180 nations. Analysts believe Mahama's tough stance could help restore public trust and improve the investment climate. However, enforcement remains a challenge, as past anti-corruption efforts have often lacked meaningful consequences for the offenders. Uganda has achieved a significant milestone in its fight against Ebola, discharging its last 8 patients and effectively containing the outbreak declared just last month. The World Health Organization praised Uganda's response, calling it a model for handling viral outbreaks. The outbreak claimed only one life, a male nurse who succumbed to the virus before the outbreak was officially declared in Kampala on January 30. Health officials tracked 265 contacts, with 90 people completing quarantine without further spread. While no approved vaccine exists for the Sudan strain of Ebola, Uganda has launched a clinical trial to test potential immunization strategies. This success contrasts sharply with the 2022 outbreak, which lasted 4 months and claimed at least 55 lives, highlighting the effectiveness of Uganda's improved health infrastructure and emergency response capabilities. Well done, Uganda. Much to be proud of. Egypt has unveiled a bold reconstruction plan for Gaza, directly opposing Donald Trump's proposal to forcibly depopulate the region and turn it into a U.S.-controlled territory. According to Egypt's state-run Al-Ahram newspaper, the plan includes secure zones where Palestinians can live while international construction firms restore the strip's destroyed infrastructure. Egyptian officials are collaborating with European diplomats, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the UAE to develop funding strategies, including a potential international conference on Gaza reconstruction. Trump's proposal, which called for relocating Gaza's 2 million residents and barring their return, has faced global condemnation. Palestinians have rejected any resettlement outside their homeland, while Egypt, Jordan, and Saudi Arabia have opposed Trump's call for neighboring countries to absorb displaced Palestinians. Human rights organizations have labeled forced expulsion a war crime, and European governments have largely denounced the proposal. Egypt's plan aims to preserve Palestinian presence in Gaza while restoring essential services through negotiations with international stakeholders as they remain ongoing. Now, those have been our top stories on Africa Good Morning. After the break, Ari Hochad brings us the latest updates from South Africa. The country is at a pivotal moment, navigating significant economic and political shifts. We'll further dissect the postponement of the budget speech and South Africa's plans to invest in nuclear power to strengthen Eskom. In sports, the Proteas men's cricket team kicks off their Champions Trophy campaign against Afghanistan this Friday, while the Springboks prepare for a challenging European tour in November. Meanwhile, Kruger National Park continues to draw tourists, and Cape Town hosts the Africa Green Economy Summit, where leaders explore sustainability and investment. Stay with us for more on these stories and more.
Welcome to Namibia, where adventure meets tranquility. With Enjoy, you have access to a wide range of accommodations to suit every traveler's taste and budget. Experience the finest dining and hospitality Namibia has to offer. Booking your dream accommodation is just a few clicks away with Enjoy. Join thousands of happy travelers who have trusted Enjoy for their Namibian getaway. Your gateway to unforgettable Namibian adventures. Visit us today at Enjoy.
All right, it's time for us to talk to Ari Hochad as he brings us the updates from South Africa. Good morning, Ari. How are you?
Yes, a very good morning, Ashwin. Nice to talk to you this morning.
All right, so interesting times, Ari. I remember when we were preparing for the show, we had our mind set on dissecting the actual budget speech in South Africa. However, disagreements within South Africa's ruling coalition have led to the postponement of the national budget, the first time this has happened in the country's modern history. Ari, take us into that.
Yes, indeed. Ashwin, lots of emotions late yesterday, going into the evening, waking up this morning. Some of the emotions have been transformed into some realities. The message that's coming out more is it's more an embarrassment than a crisis. It's obviously embarrassment when your budget cannot be tabled. It's now going to be on the 12th of March. So just for those that maybe missed that, it was the Government of National Unity that wasn't in unity on that. There's a Minister of Finance there in the middle, Minister Enoch Godongwana, and he was going to table the budget. But the big discussion point was the 2%, the VAT increase from 15% to 17%. And the Government of National Unity, or let's say the other 10 parties besides the ANC, with the strongest voice being the Democratic Alliance, said that they received that information too late. It was actually only really discussed at that level a few hours before it was going to be tabled. There was obviously rumblings about that, but then there wasn't unity and it didn't go through. So what happened in the meantime, the rand is always an indicator, Ashwin, to how the world sees the situation. So that's why it's more embarrassment than a crisis. The rand just adjusted 1 percentage point. So it went from 18 rand 33 to the dollar to 18.58. So it's not a big adjustment. It's not a big tragedy at the moment. But maybe some will say, and that is some of the voices that came through that said that at least that shows that there's the Government of National Unity is working in that form. At least there's discussion. But as me and you know, that a budget normally brings stability. And that's a word that we're looking for in South Africa. A budget needs to bring stability in government, in your household, in your company. So you need a good budget, you need a plan, and that needs to work, and everybody needs to be on the same page, and that brings stability, and that is when the world will look at South Africa as a partner. So a lot's happening, and we're looking forward to the 12th of March again.
All right, Ari, much to unpack there. Let's see how it all unfolds by the 12th of March. Now, if there's one thing South Africa needs consistently is energy, and the country is looking to invest in nuclear power as a long-term solution to Eskom's energy crisis. Tell us more about that.
Yes, Ashwin, it is the Minister of Energy, Mr. Gwede Mantashe, that said that South Africa needs to add 2,500 megawatts, and they're looking at nuclear. So Eskom under pressure, obviously. Well, Eskom is under pressure because they owe $424 billion in debt. So it's a crazy amount of money, and the municipalities have lots to do with that. So it is the budget component that will also be up for the 12th, is that. But at the moment, they're looking at a collaboration with probably Russia and Iran. Obviously, there's going to be possibilities that the countries like America and Europe will assist in that nuclear, to put up that nuclear capacity. But the minister said, but they're not going to shy away from giving Iran and Russia also the option to do that. The US have been grumblings there. They said that they can see there's military and corporate alignment and also economic alignment with Iran. But I think South Africa allowed to look outside, obviously, to see where they can get that. But at the moment, just one reality to close off that, maybe, Ashwin, is that South Africa GDP annually is $377 billion US. So it's big. But South Africa's rate to debt, our debt that we owe to that GDP is more than 70%, 72%. So it's a very high component. So South Africa battle, that's going to be coming back to the budget speech again. There's going to be lots of discussions how we can service the debt, and the personal household debt is also $150 billion US. And the challenge that everybody had with the VAT being up 15 to 17%, is more got to do that that's going to be taken from the households that's already indebted, very much so. So that is a tricky one for where Eskom also fits in and energy also fits in.
All right, okay, we'll be looking forward to seeing how all of that unfolds. Now, relations between South Africa and the United States remain tense with economic and diplomatic challenges on the rise, Ari.
It seems like there's a dialogue on the way. If there's misunderstandings on a few things, I think that was in the news as well. Strong statements made, obviously, by President Trump, that is President Ramaphosa, and he's adamant that South Africa is still a very good partner, country to partner with, lots to offer, and also that the laws will protect the man in the street in South Africa. So that was some of the concerns. But I think the one big thing economically, Ashwin, is AGOA. It is the arrangement with the sub-Saharan countries where South Africa falls part. That's been for 25 years. We had the benefit of duty-free exports to the USA, South Africa, one of the 40 countries. So that is finishing now. It's the 25th year this year. So also the G20 meetings coming up, but especially AGOA. So South Africa need to try and negotiate some duty-free benefit there that will continue. That is important for South Africa. 1,800 products that have benefit of that South Africans exporting to the US. So hopefully that will be in discussions there. So that is a big component, and we'll see how that negotiations go. But it seems like President Donald Trump is kind of involved everywhere in the world with trying to put down his stamp on the world. So South Africa is just being one of them. But we're confident that we can run that one through.
You have it close. All right. Yes. Much to pay attention to diplomatically when it comes to South Africa. Some might say the main actors of 2025. We are all paying attention. Speaking of paying attention, something that you and I both love, Ari, some good old sport, and that is something that South Africa is actually unified in, you know what I mean? So the Proteas men's cricket team kicks off their Champions Trophy campaign on Friday against Afghanistan. Take us into that.
Yes, so sport always have a way to get South Africans and Namibians to the edge of their seat. We saw what it meant for Namibian cricket, also Namibian men's team playing in the T20 World Cup. So these big tournaments are always nice. There's some of the players in action, and that's played in Pakistan. India not playing their games there. They're playing it in I think, United Arab Emirates. South Africa playing against Afghanistan. So it's a bit of a challenge in terms of what Afghanistan offer. They've got Rashid Khan and Noor Ahmed, two of the best spinners in the world, but they've played lots of T20 cricket in South Africa recently. So the South African batsmen will know what to expect. But South Africa in a tough group, they also need to play against England and Australia, and then obviously Afghanistan, and just two of the 4 teams going through to the semi-finals. So it's going to be very competitive. So one big team between South Africa, England, and Australia will go out, and Afghanistan might even go through. So you never know. So in the other rounds, so obviously we saw New Zealand with a good start beating Pakistan, and they also have a tough group with India also being in that group. So lots to look forward to. So it's exciting cricket times. It's just a pity that it takes so much time to watch those games.
Exciting times ahead indeed, Ari. Now, the Springboks face 4 major European clashes in November, including showdowns in France and Ireland.
Yes, the big rival obviously will remain New Zealand in World Cup before South Africa, but there's a new challenge, big challenge, and that's Ireland that has been challenging them for the #1 world spot. So South Africa will play against Ireland as well. That's the Springboks there singing the national anthem. So it will first be South Africa that play against France again. That's a bit of a rematch from what happened in Paris 2023. And then they will also play against Italy and Wales. But the other big game will be against Ireland. So those were big, 4 big games. But you would think that Wales might be a little bit better by then. Italy is not at the same level as France and Ireland. So I'm looking forward to those games. France first up, and the third game will be against Ireland. So that is mid-November.
All right, Ari, let's see how the Springboks handle Europe. But before we go that far, let's swing back for what's happening in South Africa, entertainment and culturally. The Kruger National Park remains one of South Africa's most valuable tourism destinations. I know Simone Biles is in the country at some safari. I wonder if she's actually at the Kruger National Park.
Yes, and Wind Africa love that. And then the nice thing is that it is people from all over the world that come in, and they really appreciate what nature has to offer in Africa. So the Kruger National Park, just briefly going back to 1926 when it opened, so it's quite a long time ago, and actually it was commissioned in 1898. It was a bit controversial, still controversial then, lots of Chongu residents that was relocated, and so that's controversial, but that 19,000 square meters, the national park is still set there, protecting lots of animals. Most half of the world's white and black rhinos are found there. It's a sanctuary for wild dogs as well. The big six are there, the big five, and the big six of birds are there as well. And so it's a very important component for the economy of South Africa. And not too expensive to go there, about 120 Rand for a South African citizen to go in there. If you're a SADC member, 257 Namibian dollars it will cost you to go in there, half of that for your child that's under 12 years old. So it's accessible, and it's a very great place. Like you'll see those photos like that. When you don't need to look at the photos, you'll see it with your own eyes. So Kruger National Park, a very proud tourism destination for South Africa.
All right, Ari, we're always talking about Cape Town. I think we might need to add another destination to that list when we finally reunite. Now, in the last of your updates from South Africa, the Africa Green Economy Summit has started in Cape Town, bringing together leaders to discuss sustainability and investment opportunities. Important component, and it's linked to entertainment as well, and it's linked to what's happening to keeping South Africa as green as possible, and the world as green as possible. But at the summit taking place, it's just started, so it's at the Cape Town Convention Centre, and it's obviously for entrepreneurial and also global investment is a big component there. And one of the speakers I picked up there is from the United States, actually, so it will be good from building that bridges again. It's the Global MD, Managing Director of Climate Policy Institute of America. That's Barbara Buchanan, and she'll be one of the speakers there. So it's good to see that South Africa also serious about green economy, and it's exciting what South Africa offer related to green economy. So it's a South Africa proud export product as well. We're talking about also the tourism, and that is where Cape Town also fit in. And yes, hopefully, Ashwin, sooner than later, me and you can meet up at the lovely waterfront in Cape Town, and I can show you Cape Town from close up. All right, Ari, thank you so much for bringing us that comprehensive report of the news stories stemming from South Africa. Let's have a look at the economic indicators and weather before we say goodbye. DSTV 285, GOTV 25, oneup2.com and Network Media Hub is precisely where you can find us. From me, Ashwin Berry, and the Africa Good Morning team, Sweda Jaganaka.